You know what's worse than being robbed? Being robbed by someone who made you feel like a hero while they did it. I thought I was saving her from poverty. Turns out, she was making more in a week than I made in 3 months, all through my internet connection. Sometimes the biggest scam isn't about money, it's about making you believe you matter. If our stories resonate with you, don't forget to like, comment, and tell us where you're watching from. This story was shared with us by one of our longtime viewers from Barrie, Canada. He asked us not to share his name, but he wanted his experience heard. I'm staring at my laptop screen right now, looking at an internet bill that's 3 times what I normally pay. The number keeps blinking at me like it's mocking everything I thought I knew about the past 6 months. My small apartment in Cebu feels different now. Quieter, but not in a peaceful way. It's the kind of quiet that comes after something breaks. I came to the Philippines thinking I was starting over. 62 years old, divorced after 28 years of marriage, early retirement from municipal work in Barrie because I couldn't stand another Canadian winter feeling like my life was over. Go somewhere warm, my ex-wife said during our last conversation. Maybe you'll find yourself. I thought she was being sarcastic, but maybe she was right. I did find myself. I found out exactly how stupid I could be. The data usage report shows someone streamed video content for 18 hours a day, every day for the past 3 months. Gaming platforms, financial websites, cryptocurrency exchanges. I don't gamble. I barely know what cryptocurrency is, but my internet connection sure as hell does. I keep scrolling through the logs, trying to make sense of numbers that don't add up to the life I thought I was living. The woman I thought I was helping build a better future was already making more money than I'd ever seen in one place, and she was doing it all through my Wi-Fi password. 3 months ago, I walked into a coffee shop near the Ayala Center because the air conditioning in my apartment had broken again. I wasn't looking for anything except somewhere cool to drink overpriced coffee and maybe video call my daughter back home. The place was mostly empty, except for this woman sitting alone at a corner table, hunched over what looked like the oldest smartphone I'd seen in years. She kept glancing around like she was embarrassed, typing slowly with one finger. She was probably in her late 20s, wearing a simple white t-shirt and jeans that had seen better days. Her hair was pulled back in a messy ponytail, no makeup, no jewelry except for a small cross necklace. She looked like someone trying not to be noticed. "Excuse me," I said, approaching her table. "The Wi-Fi here any good?" She looked up at me with these wide, nervous eyes. "I don't know, sir. I just use my data." Her English was careful, formal. She gestured at her phone apologetically. "It's very slow, but it works." I sat down across from her without really thinking about it. "I'm Wesley, just moved here from Canada." She smiled, but it was shy, hesitant. "I'm Coraline. Welcome to Cebu." We talked for maybe 20 minutes. She worked part-time at a local store, she said. Something about retail and inventory. The pay wasn't good, but it was enough to get by. When I offered to buy her a coffee, she actually refused twice before accepting. "Just black coffee," she insisted. "I don't need anything fancy." That should have been the first sign. Who turns down free coffee twice? But I was charmed by what I thought was humility. After my divorce, after feeling invisible for years, here was someone who seemed genuinely grateful for simple kindness. When she finally did accept the coffee, she thanked me 3 times. When I gave her my phone number and said maybe we could have dinner sometime, she looked genuinely surprised. "You want to see me again?" she asked, like the idea that someone might want her company was foreign to her. I walked back to my apartment that afternoon feeling lighter than I had in months. Maybe this move to the Philippines wasn't such a bad idea after all. Over the next 2 weeks we met for coffee 4 more times. Each time Coraline seemed a little more comfortable, a little more willing to talk. But she was always careful about money. When I suggested restaurants, she'd counter with suggesting we cook at home. "Cheaper," she said. When I offered to pick up the check, she'd insist on splitting it, counting out exact change from a worn wallet. "I don't want to be a burden," she'd say. She told me about her family slowly in small pieces. Her mother was sick, needed medication they could barely afford. Her father had died when she was young. She had a younger brother she was helping put through school. "It's okay," she'd say when I expressed sympathy. "We manage. We always manage." I started looking forward to our conversations more than I wanted to admit. She asked about my life in Canada, seemed genuinely interested in my work with the municipal government, my daughter who was finishing college, even my divorce. 28 years is a long time, she said one afternoon. You must miss having someone to take care of. I did miss that. I missed feeling needed, feeling like my presence in someone's life mattered. Coraline never asked me for anything, which made me want to give her everything. You're very kind, she'd say whenever I tried to help with small things. Most people aren't so generous to strangers. But she wasn't a stranger anymore. By the third week, I was texting her good morning. Every day. She'd respond with simple messages. Good morning, Wesley, have a nice day. But they felt genuine. She worked long hours, she said, sometimes double shifts when they needed extra help at the store. I'd see her in the evenings looking tired, worried about bills or her mother's medical expenses. I wanted to help, but every time I offered money directly, she'd refuse. I can't take that, she'd say, looking almost hurt by the suggestion. I work for what I need. It made me respect her more. After dealing with my ex-wife's constant demands and complaints about money, Coraline's independence felt refreshing. After 6 weeks of coffee dates and long walks around the city, I suggested she move in with me. My apartment has 2 bedrooms, I said. You could save money on rent, help your family more. She was quiet for a long time, staring at her hands. I don't want you to think I'm using you, she finally said. People might talk. A young Filipino woman living with an older foreign man. I told her I didn't care what people thought. You're struggling to help your family, I said. I have space I'm not using, it makes sense. She agreed, but reluctantly, like I was twisting her arm into accepting help instead of the other way around. The first few weeks living together were good, better than good. Coraline was clean, quiet, respectful of my space. She paid for her own food, did her own laundry, kept to herself mostly. She'd wake up early, leave for work, come back in the evening looking exhausted. After dinner, she'd spend hours on her phone or laptop, earbuds in, focused on the screen. What are you working on? I'd ask. Online English courses, she'd say, and some virtual assistant work for American companies, trying to improve my skills, maybe find better job opportunities. I was proud of her. Here was someone taking control of her life, working to build something better. She asked to use my internet connection for her studies. Her phone data was expensive, she explained, and my Wi-Fi was faster. Of course I said yes. I gave her my password and watched her face light up when she connected her devices. This is so much better, she said, logging into what looked like educational websites. Thank you, Wesley. This will help me so much. Seeing her excited about learning, about improving her situation, made me feel useful again. I was contributing to something positive. I was making a difference in someone's life. But things started feeling different after she moved in. Coraline began sleeping during the day and staying awake all night. It's the American schedule, she explained when I asked. The companies I work for are in different time zones. I have to be online when they're working. It made sense, I guess. She'd go to bed around 8 in the morning and sleep until late afternoon. I'd hear her on video calls through the thin walls, speaking in rapid Filipino, occasionally switching to English with what sounded like different accents. Sometimes British, sometimes American, sometimes something I couldn't place. I started noticing other things too. Coraline had expensive makeup that seemed inconsistent with someone struggling to pay bills, designer brands, products that cost more than her claimed monthly salary. When I asked about it, she said they were gifts from relatives who worked overseas. My cousin in Dubai sends me things sometimes, she said. She feels bad that I'm taking care of our mother. Her phone calls came at strange hours. 3 in the morning, 5 in the morning, always in Filipino, always intense conversations that lasted for hours. Job interviews, she'd explain if I asked. Different companies, different time zones. The calls were getting more frequent. Every night, multiple conversations that sounded less like job interviews and more like business negotiations. I'd catch fragments in English, words like deposit, withdrawal, account balance, high, roller. When I asked about it, Coraline said she was practicing different English pronunciations for potential employers. American companies want American accents, she said. British companies prefer British accents. I'm learning to be flexible. It sounded reasonable, but something felt off. The intensity of these late-night calls, the way she'd pace around the apartment while talking, didn't match someone practicing pronunciation. Then my internet bill arrived. 3 times my normal amount. I stared at the number, thinking there had to be a mistake. When I called the provider, they explained that someone had been using enormous amounts of data, primarily video streaming and online gaming platforms, running continuously for weeks. This level of usage suggests multiple high-definition video streams running simultaneously, the representative said. Are you operating a business from your address? I wasn't, but apparently someone was. I confronted Coraline about the bill that evening. She looked genuinely surprised, concerned even. That's impossible, she said. I just use it for studying and job applications. Maybe someone hacked your Wi-Fi. She offered to pay half the bill, which surprised me. If she was truly as poor, as she claimed, where would she get that kind of money? But she had it counted out in cash from a small box in her room. I've been saving, she explained, for emergencies. I accepted her contribution, but the whole situation left me uneasy. The next few nights I couldn't sleep. Coraline's video calls were getting louder, more intense. I started listening more carefully, trying to understand what kind of work required. Such passionate, urgent conversations at 4 in the morning. Through the thin walls, I could hear her speaking to different people in distinctly different accents. With one caller, she sounded like she was from California. With another, she had a crisp British pronunciation. The conversations were about money, lots of money. Your account is credited, I heard her say one night. The withdrawal will process within 24 hours. Then, switching to Filipino, more heated discussion with someone else. I decided to check my router's connection logs. I'm not particularly tech-savvy, but I know enough about computers to access basic network information. What I found made my stomach drop. Dozens of gambling websites, online casinos, cryptocurrency exchanges, money transfer services, all accessed from my IP address. The data usage showed multiple high-definition video streams running 18 to 20 hours per day, every day, for the past 3 months. Someone had been running a massive online operation from my apartment, using my internet connection, under my name. I printed out the logs and waited for Coraline to wake up. When she emerged from her room that afternoon, I spread the papers across the kitchen table. We need to talk, I said. Her face went blank, carefully neutral. What is this? She asked, looking at the printouts like she'd never seen them before. I explained what I'd found, the casino websites, the data usage, the financial platforms. Someone's been running an online gambling operation from this apartment, I said, using my internet, my IP address. She stared at the papers for a long time, then looked up at me with those same wide, innocent eyes. I don't understand, she said. This must be a mistake. But her performance wasn't as convincing anymore. I pressed harder, showed her specific timestamps that matched her late-night video calls. Gradually, her story began to change. First, she admitted to helping friends with online games for small commissions. Then she acknowledged working as a customer service representative for entertainment companies. Under continued pressure, she finally admitted to working as a live dealer for online casinos. It's just part-time work, she insisted. Nothing illegal. I just deal cards on video for international customers. I asked about the multiple accents, the heated financial conversations. Different casinos prefer different types of dealers, she said. I adapt to what they want. It took 3 hours of confrontation before Coraline told me the complete truth. She wasn't just working for online casinos, she was running her own operation. Multiple gambling platforms, serving as a live dealer for several illegal sites, processing transactions through cryptocurrency exchanges, managing customer accounts, and coordinating with other operators across Southeast Asia. The poor girl, struggling to support her family story, was completely fabricated. She'd been making thousands of dollars per week, all while living rent-free in my apartment and using my internet connection to legitimize her business. How much? I asked, my voice barely steady. She looked at me for a long moment, then walked to her room and returned with a laptop. She showed me account balances that made my retirement savings look pathetic. In the past 3 months alone, she'd processed over $200,000 through various platforms. Her personal take was roughly 15% more money than I'd made in the past year of municipal work. Why me? I asked. Why my apartment, my internet? She explained it calmly, like she was discussing the weather. Western men's internet connections provide legitimacy for international gambling operations. Foreign IP addresses, especially from developed countries, bypass certain regulatory restrictions. Lonely, generous expats make perfect, unwitting partners. The legal implications hit me like a physical blow. My internet connection, my address, my name were associated with illegal gambling operations that could put me in prison. According to Philippine law, I could be charged with money laundering, tax evasion, and operating illegal gambling services. The fact that I was ignorant of the operation wouldn't necessarily protect me. The crimes were committed using my resources under my roof. Coraline watched me process this information with what looked like genuine sympathy. "I never meant for you to get in trouble," she said. "That's why I offered to pay the internet bills. I was trying to keep you safe." "You were trying to keep yourself safe," I said. She nodded. "That too." She explained that this wasn't her first operation. She'd run similar schemes with 3 other foreign boyfriends over the past 2 years. "Lonely men are easy targets," she said, not cruelly, just matter-of-factly. "You want to help, to feel needed. You don't ask too many questions when someone makes you feel important." She was right. I hadn't asked enough questions because I didn't want to risk losing the feeling that I mattered to someone again. Coraline offered to disappear quietly if I didn't report her to authorities. "It's better for both of us," she said. "You call the police, they'll investigate everything. Your internet, your apartment, your finances. Even if they believe you're innocent, the process will destroy your life here." She was probably right. A corruption investigation in the Philippines could take years, cost everything I had, and likely result in deportation even if I avoided prison. "I'll leave tonight," she said. "Change your passwords, get a new internet provider. Tell anyone who asks that I moved back to my family. In 6 months, this will all be forgotten." I had to decide whether to report her or let her go. Every rational. Part of me knew I should call the police, report the crimes, try to clear my name officially. But the practical part of me recognized that involving authorities would likely destroy my life more completely than Coraline's operation already had. I chose self-preservation over justice. "Pack your things," I told her. "I want you gone in." "An hour." She nodded, disappeared into her room, and emerged 30 minutes later with 2 small bags. As she prepared to leave, I realized how little she'd ever actually brought into my apartment. Almost everything she'd used, in the laptop, the phones, the expensive makeup, was apparently borrowed or rented for the performance. Watching her leave was surreal. 3 months of believing I was helping someone build a better life, and it turned out I was just another mark in a sophisticated long-term con. "For what it's worth," Coraline said at the door, "I did enjoy talking with you. The conversations were real, even if everything else wasn't." I almost believed her. Maybe some part of it had been real. Maybe she had genuinely liked having someone care about her, even if the caring was based on lies. But it didn't matter anymore. The woman I thought I knew had never existed. 6 months later, I'm sitting in a different apartment with a different internet provider, writing this all down, because I need to process what happened. I've learned to verify people's backgrounds, never share passwords, and understand that modern scams are more sophisticated than anything I could have imagined. I was the perfect target. Lonely, generous, technologically naive, desperate to feel useful again. Coraline saw all of that within minutes of meeting me and built an entire false identity designed to exploit my specific vulnerabilities. The hardest part isn't the money I lost or the legal scare I endured. It's accepting that my desire to help someone, to matter in someone's life, made me willfully blind to obvious warning signs. I wanted so badly to believe I was making a difference that I ignored every red flag, rationalized every inconsistency, and handed over everything she needed to commit crimes in my name. Other expats need to understand that their internet connections, their addresses, their loneliness, make them valuable targets for operations they can't even imagine. The poverty you think you're helping someone escape might be the most expensive performance you'll ever witness. Trust me, I paid for front row, seats to a show I never knew I was watching.